He sat by the window of his private jet and watched the clouds slide past like slow waves. For the first time in years, his phone was silent. No meetings, no investors, no calls about deals, no assistants sitting nearby with folders. He had finally decided to step away, even if just for a few days. Everyone around him thought he lived a perfect life. Expensive cars, large houses, luxury vacations, and a bank account that could solve almost any problem. But inside, he felt tired in a way sleep could not fix. His days were filled with pressure, decisions, and responsibility. His nights were filled with silence in rooms that were too big and too quiet. The idea of this trip came after a doctor warned him that stress was running his life. The doctor said his blood pressure was too high and that he needed rest before his body forced him to stop. That warning scared him more than any business risk ever had, so he chose a hotel far from the noise of the city. It's a place with palms, ocean waves, and private beaches. He wanted to disappear for a little while. No one from his world would know where he was, not even his closest business partners. When he arrived, the air felt different. Warm, clean, calm. The sound of the ocean could already be heard in the distance. The driver opened the door and he stepped out slowly, breathing in the fresh air as if he hadn't done that properly in years. The hotel rose in front of him like a peaceful palace. Glass doors, soft lights, and quiet music flowing out into the evening air. Staff greeted him warmly, but he asked them to keep things simple. No special treatment, no announcements, just a quiet stay. He carried only a small bag and walked inside the lobby. The floor was shining marble, reflecting soft golden lights from the ceiling. The air smelled of flowers and fresh polish. People were checking in, laughing softly, and enjoying their holidays. He told himself this was exactly what he needed, a place where nobody knew him and nobody needed anything from him but peace. Like always, didn't last long. As he walked toward the reception desk, he noticed someone standing near the tall glass windows. She was facing away from him at first, looking at her phone. Her hair was tied back in a simple style. She wore a plain dress and small earrings. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. Something about her posture made him slow his steps. She turned slightly, just enough for him to see the side of her face. And suddenly, the air felt heavy. His heart gave a hard, unexpected beat. It couldn't be, but it was. Years had passed, but he would recognize her anywhere. He had tried very hard to forget her, tried to bury memories under business trips, new projects, and long working hours. But the past doesn't disappear. It only sleeps, and now it was standing a few steps away from him. He stopped walking. The sounds of the lobby faded into a soft blur. All he could hear was his own breathing and the faint sound of the ocean outside. She looked different, but the same. Her face had matured. Her eyes looked calmer, stronger. The girl who once waited for his late-night calls was gone. The woman standing there looked like she had learned how to stand alone. He felt something twist inside his chest. Fear, shock, guilt. He thought about turning around and walking straight back out, pretending he never saw her. Pretending this moment didn't exist, but his feet wouldn't move. Memories flooded his mind without warning. Late-night drives, quiet laughter. Simple dinners on weak plastic chairs because they were too young and too broke back then. She had believed in him when he had nothing but dreams and a stubborn heart. He remembered the way she used to look at him, like he was more than just a man chasing success. He remembered the night he ended everything. He didn't even explain properly. He just said he needed to focus. He couldn't handle love and ambition at the same time. He said he would be too busy. Said he was changing. She didn't cry in front of him that night. She just nodded slowly and said she understood. That quiet nod stayed with him longer than any argument ever could. Now she stood a few steps away, unaware that he was frozen behind her like a ghost from her past. He watched as she smiled at her. Phone, typing something, probably to someone who mattered in her present life. And that thought hurt more than he expected. She had moved on. She had built a life without him. He had millions in his bank account. She had peace in her eyes. A couple walked past him, laughing loudly, and bumped lightly into his shoulder, pulling him back into the present. His body tensed, and he forced himself to breathe normally. He told himself to be invisible, Just check in and go to the room. Just let her be. But the old part of him, part that had once loved her before money replaced everything, felt stirred awake. He took a slow step forward, then stopped. He shook his head slightly. This was supposed to be a break. It's not a storm. He turned his head toward the reception desk and started walking again, choosing the path that would take him farther from her. Each step felt heavier, like he was walking against water as he reached the counter. He could still see her reflection in the shiny surface of the marble floor. Alive. Real. Not just a memory. The receptionist smiled and began speaking, but he barely heard a word. All his attention was pulled toward the past standing. It's just a few feet away. Then something changed. She stopped typing on her phone. She lifted her head, slowly, as if she felt something, as if she felt eyes on her. She turned around and their eyes met. Time stopped. No words, no sounds. Just two people staring at each other after years of silence. Her smile faded into confusion, then recognition. Her lips parted slightly. She said nothing. He felt like his heart might stop. This wasn't how he imagined seeing her again. He had imagined running into her somewhere random, maybe years from now, and acting calm and successful. But now he felt like a man who had lost something valuable and only realized its worth when it was too late. She didn't look angry. She didn't look sad. She just looked surprised and maybe a little hurt. The receptionist cleared their throat, reminding him that he was standing at the counter. He signed the papers with a shaking hand, barely able to control his thoughts. Across the lobby, she was still watching him. Not moving, not speaking, just watching. He returned his card and slowly turned away, his room key now in his hand. He told himself to walk past her without stopping, to act like a stranger. But when he came closer, close enough to almost feel her presence, his body refused to stay silent. He paused. She stood just a few steps from him. The air between them felt thick and heavy, full of words that had never been spoken. He opened his mouth slightly, but before he could say anything, before he could find the courage to speak her name, she took a slow step toward him. And that simple step felt like the beginning of a storm neither of them was ready for. She stopped just a step away from him. For a second, neither of them spoke. The soft music from the lobby floated through the air, but it felt far away. Everything felt far away except the two of them standing there, facing a past that had never truly disappeared. He wanted to say something. Anything. A simple hello, a weak joke, an apology. But the words stuck in his throat. She was the first to speak. "I didn't expect to see you here," she said quietly. Her voice hadn't changed as much as he thought it would. It was still soft, but stronger now. Confident, like someone who had learned how to survive storms alone. He nodded slowly. I didn't expect it either. That was all he could manage. Around them, people moved in and out of the hotel, dragging luggage, laughing, hugging, checking their phones. But a strange silence wrapped itself around the two of them. She looked at him closely, not like someone looking at a stranger, not like someone looking at an enemy. It felt like she was studying him, trying to understand the man he had become. "You look different," she said. He gave a small, tired smile. "So do you." The silence came back, heavier this time. She glanced toward the elevators, then back at him. "Have a meeting in about an hour," she said. "I'm here for a work event." Her words hit him softly. Work. She still had goals. Still had direction. He nodded. "I'm just here to rest," he said. "I needed time away." She looked slightly surprised, like she hadn't expected that answer. "Rest," repeated, as if the word felt unfamiliar coming from him. He shrugged. "Even busy people get tired." She gave a small nod, as if she understood. Something he hadn't said out loud. Another awkward pause settled between them. She shifted her bag higher on her shoulder. "It was surprising to see you," she said. "I should go." He felt a strange panic rise inside him. Didn't want the moment to end this quickly, not after so many years. "I'm staying for a few days," he said quickly. "If you're free, we could talk. Just talk." He didn't know where the courage came from. Maybe from fear of losing the chance again? She looked at him for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. Maybe, she said. We'll see. Then she turned and walked toward the elevators. He stood there watching her until the elevator doors closed and her reflection disappeared. Only then did he realize he was holding his breath. He released it slowly and rubbed his face with his hands. His heart was beating too fast. He felt like he had run miles without moving. He walked toward his room in a daze. Inside the room, the curtains were half open, letting soft evening light fill the space. The ocean was visible in the distance, calm and endless. He placed his bag on the floor and sat at the edge of the bed. His mind wouldn't stop. He remembered things he had, forced himself to forget the tiny kitchen they once shared in a cheap apartment, the way she used to sit cross-legged on the floor, helping him practice business pitches when he had no investors and no office, the nights she stayed awake just to make sure he ate something back then. He had nothing. No big bank account. No powerful name. No expensive cars, but he had her, and he had walked away. He laid back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. Time passed without him noticing. Soft knock on the door pulled him out of his thoughts. He wasn't expecting anyone. He stood up slowly, smoothed his shirt, and went to open the door. It was hotel staff checking to confirm room service details. He answered politely and closed the door again. He felt foolish for the small hope that had risen inside him. He walked toward the balcony and stepped outside. The sound of the waves filled his ears. The air smelled like salt and warm night breeze. He leaned against the railing. Down by the pool area, he noticed movement. A group of people were gathered near a banner. It looked like some kind of formal event being prepared. As he looked closer, he spotted her. She was standing with a small group, speaking calmly, confidently. People listened when she talked. Some nodded. Some smiled. She looked like she belonged there. He didn't feel jealous. He felt proud, even if he didn't deserve to. He stayed there longer than he realized, just watching from a distance, not wanting to interrupt her world. Later that night, he went down to the hotel restaurant, not because he was hungry, because he didn't want to stay alone in the room. The restaurant was softly lit, quiet and calm. He chose a table in the corner. While he looked at the menu, he felt a strange presence nearby. He looked up. She was standing a few steps away. "I saw you at the balcony," she said softly. He felt embarrassed, like a child caught doing something wrong. "I wasn't spying," he said quickly. "I just couldn't sleep." She gave a small smile. "It's okay." She hesitated for a moment, then pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. He hadn't expected that. For a moment, they just sat there, staring at the table. Then she spoke. "You left without really explaining," she said quietly. Her words weren't angry. They were calm, but calm words can sometimes hurt the most. He swallowed hard. "I didn't know how to explain," he said. I thought I was protecting you." She looked at him, eyes steady. "You weren't protecting me," she said. "You were protecting yourself?" He didn't deny it. She folded her hands on the table. "I cried for months," she said. "Then I stopped. Then I got busy living." Her honesty stung, but he deserved the pain. "I was angry for a long time," she continued. "But I don't carry that anger anymore." Felt something heavy in his chest. Relief, sadness, regret. "I'm glad you're okay," he said. "I'm more than okay," she replied. "I worked hard to get there." He nodded slowly, respecting the strength in her voice. A server came and took their simple drink orders. When the server left, silence wrapped around them again. But it felt different now. Not uncomfortable, just honest. She looked at him again. "There's something you should know," she said. Her voice became softer, serious, important. His heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" he asked. She took a slow breath, as if preparing herself, and just as she was about to speak, her phone started ringing on the table between them. She turned the screen down quickly and looked torn for a moment. "I have to take this," she said. He nodded. Hiding his disappointment, she stood up and stepped a few feet away. Answering the call in a low voice, He watched her from his seat as she spoke. Laughing softly at something the person said, he wondered who was on the other side of that call as she walked further, away to get privacy. He felt a strange fear creep in that he might lose her again. Not by choice, but by time, and this time. He wasn't sure if he could handle that. He sat back down at the table after she ended the call, feeling a strange mix of relief and tension. The restaurant had quieted down a little, the soft clinking of glasses and low conversation forming a gentle background. He could see her now, closer again, but still keeping a careful distance. She wasn't angry, not really. But there was a line between them that hadn't been crossed yet, a line he knew he had drawn himself all those years ago. He cleared his throat, unsure where to start. He began, then stopped. Words felt useless. Too heavy. Too light. Nothing seemed right. How do you talk to someone you hurt years ago and left behind, someone who mattered more than you realized? She looked at him, her eyes calm but curious. You don't have to say anything, she said softly. I don't expect an explanation right now. He swallowed hard. He wanted to explain everything, every choice, every foolish decision, every time he chose work over her. But hearing her say that made him realize he had no right to demand forgiveness. Not yet. Not in this moment. I wanted to, he said finally. To explain why I left, why I disappeared. But I know I can't change the past. She nodded, and he saw a flicker of sadness cross her face. Not anger, not resentment, just quiet pain. He hated that he had caused it. Hated that he had left her carrying memories of him that she would never forget. And yet, he also felt a small relief because she was here. She was real. She hadn't vanished into nothing. She was still strong. I had a lot of time to think about it, she said, lowering her voice. About us? About you leaving? I thought I'd hate you forever, but I learned that hate doesn't help anyone. It just makes you bitter. I had to let it go to survive. He nodded, listening intently. Each word she spoke felt like it opened a door he had long closed. A door to a past that had shaped both of them. He remembered the nights they had stayed up talking, dreaming, hoping, the late walks when they shared secrets no one else would hear. All of it came rushing back, warm and painful. I know I hurt you too, he said, almost whispering. I was. Selfish. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I see now how wrong I was. She looked down at the table, her fingers tracing the edge as if lost in thought. It wasn't just the leaving, she admitted. It was the silence, the not knowing. That was worse than anything. He nodded again, swallowing the lump in his throat. He had known this day might come, that somehow fate would bring them back together, but he had never imagined how real it would feel, how much it would shake him. I want to know how you've been, he said carefully. Not just polite words. I want to know everything if you'll tell me. She hesitated for a moment, then looked up at him. Her eyes softened slightly, a trace of the old warmth he remembered. Life wasn't easy, she said. After you left, I had to start over. I had nothing. I worked long hours, took every small opportunity, and tried to build a life that didn't depend on anyone else. I had to prove to myself that I could survive without you. He felt a sharp pang of guilt. He had taken years of her life for granted. He had left her struggling alone while he climbed the ladder he thought was the most important thing. Now, sitting here, he realized that no success, no money, no title could ever fill the space he had left behind. But I did it, she continued, her voice gaining strength. I became someone I can be proud of. I don't need anyone to save me. I saved myself. He nodded slowly, deeply impressed. She had transformed her pain into strength, something he hadn't done for himself. He had built wealth, yes, but not inner peace, not real resilience. She had taken her heartbreak and turned it into a life that was entirely hers. I'm proud of you, he said, almost choking on the words. I mean that. You've done what I never could. You made yourself whole. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes completely, but carries quiet acknowledgement. Thank you, she said. That means a lot coming from you. They sat there in silence for a while, letting the air between them settle. It was the kind of silence that wasn't uncomfortable. It was honest. It was tentative, yes, but it was the beginning of something neither of them fully understood yet. Old wounds were still there, but maybe, just maybe, they could start to heal. "I've thought about seeing you again," he admitted, voice low. "I never expected this. But now that you're here, I don't know. I had to say something." She nodded, not saying anything, letting him speak. "You had a lot of time to think about us, didn't you?" She asked quietly. "Yes," he admitted. "Every single day. I realized a lot of things. About love, about what I threw away, about what I lost. You were the best part of my life, and I ignored it." Her eyes softened further, and he saw a flicker of the girl he had fallen in love with all those years ago. But she wasn't the same girl. She had grown, changed, survived. She had learned lessons he was still struggling to grasp. "I don't think I can forget how you left," she said, voice steady but quiet. "But I also don't think I need to hate you anymore. That hate, it would just take more from me than it would from you." He nodded again, swallowing hard. He felt both relief and regret at the same time. Relief that she wasn't angry. Regret that he had caused her pain he could never undo. "I want to make things right," he said carefully. "Even if it's just small steps. Even if we can't go back, I want to be honest with you now. I want to try to be someone you can trust again." She looked at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "We'll see," she said. "We'll see what honesty brings us." He nodded, understanding that this was not a promise of forgiveness, not a promise of love, just a promise of possibility. And that was enough. For now, they ordered a simple meal, sitting across from each other, the tension easing slightly. Conversation started to flow, small things at first. Work, the hotel, the ocean view. They laughed softly at nothing important, but the laughter felt real. It wasn't forced. It wasn't fake. It was the kind of laughter that comes after long silence, after years of distance. It was the kind that hinted at a connection still alive beneath the surface. As they talked, he realized how much he had missed this. Not the material life he had built, not the wealth or the power, but the simple presence of someone who knew him deeply. Someone who had once seen the real him and accepted him anyway. Someone who had mattered more than any deal, more than any accomplishment. She shared stories of her struggles, the hard nights, the small victories, the moments when she felt like giving up, but didn't. And he listened. Really listened, for the first time in years. Not as a millionaire listening to a story, not as a man seeking approval or admiration, but as a human being connecting with another human being. Time passed unnoticed. The restaurant started to empty around them, the night deepening outside. He realized that he didn't want this evening to end. He didn't want to leave without knowing more, without hearing more, without feeling the warmth of her presence. Finally, she looked at him with seriousness again. "There's something important I need to tell you," she said. His heart skipped a beat. He leaned forward slightly. "What is it?" She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "It's about my life now. About what's changed since we were together." He nodded, bracing himself. The past had been difficult, but he knew the present could be even harder. She looked him in the eye. "There's someone in my life now. Someone very important, and it's someone you need to know about." He swallowed hard, a knot forming in his stomach. His mind raced with possibilities. He didn't know if he wanted to know. He didn't know if he could handle it. She looked at him gently. "I want you to meet them," she said. "But only when you're ready." He nodded slowly. "I think I am," he said, though a small part of him wasn't sure if he ever could be. They sat there in silence again, both feeling the weight of the moment. Words had brought them back together, yes, but the truth was still waiting. And he knew that once he heard it, nothing would ever be the same again. Yet, despite the fear, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. A small, fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, the story between them wasn't finished. He felt the tension in his chest tighten as she spoke. The words she was about to say seemed to hang in the air like a heavy cloud waiting to fall. He had imagined many scenarios since seeing her again, many possibilities for what she might say, but nothing had prepared him for the truth she was about to reveal. She looked at him, her eyes steady but carrying a weight he had never seen before. "There's something you should know," she said softly. "Something that's been a part of my life for a long time, but I didn't tell you. Not then, not ever." He leaned forward slightly, his heart racing. Every nerve in his body was alert. He felt a strange mixture of fear and anticipation. He wanted to look away, to run, to pretend that he didn't need to hear what she was about to say. But he couldn't. He had to face it. "I have a child," she said quietly. The words struck him like lightning. A child. His mind froze. His body felt heavy, as if gravity had doubled. He blinked, trying to process the meaning. He stared at her, searching for any hint that she was joking or exaggerating. But her face was calm, serious, unyielding. You have a child?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," she replied. "And the child is yours." The world seemed to tilt around him. The noise of the hotel restaurant, the soft clinking of glasses, even the gentle music, all disappeared. All he could hear was the echo of those words. His child. His child. His child. He didn't know how to respond. His mind spun, trying to process years of absence, of decisions, of mistakes, and suddenly this. A child. His child. I don't understand," he said slowly. "Why? Why didn't you tell me?" She looked down for a moment, then back at him, her eyes glistening faintly. "I wanted to. I thought about it so many times, but I couldn't. I didn't want your life, your busy world, to disrupt. To take over what I had built for my child. I wanted to protect them, to protect both of us. You had your life, and I had to make sure this child had stability." He swallowed hard. He felt guilt crawling up from his chest, tightening like a vice. Guilt for leaving her alone. Guilt for missing years of his child's life. Guilt for thinking that money and success were all that mattered. I don't even know what to say," he murmured. I should have been there. I should have known. I should have done so much differently." She shook her head slightly, a sad smile touching her lips. "You made choices, yes? But life went on. I went on, and this child has been my world." He felt a sharp, aching pull in his chest. He had imagined seeing her again, imagined talking, imagined apologies, but he had never imagined this. The consequences of his choices had hit him with a force he could not escape. Can I meet them?" he asked hesitantly, his voice shaking. Her gaze softened. "You can," she said quietly. "But you must understand. This isn't about anger or punishment or even forgiveness. This is about the child. And you need to understand that before you step into their life." He nodded quickly, almost desperate to say yes. "I do. I understand. I need to meet them. I need to see this part of you, of us." She hesitated, studying him carefully. For a moment, it felt like she was weighing the risks, the emotions, the years of absence. Then she nodded slowly. "All right," she said. But slowly, one step at a time. He felt a strange mixture of relief and fear. Relief that she had agreed. Fear of what he would feel when he finally saw the child. The proof of all the years he had missed. The next day, she invited him to her room. He arrived early, nervously walking down the quiet hotel corridor. Every step made his heart beat faster. He wondered how his child would react, whether they would even recognize him, or if he would feel like a stranger in their life. When she opened the door, she smiled softly, as if to reassure him. "They're in the next room," she said gently. "Take your time. I'll be right here." He nodded and stepped inside, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He took a deep breath, bracing himself for the first time to see what his absence had created. The child looked up from a small pile of toys on the floor. Their eyes were wide, curious, and for a moment, he felt like he was staring at a mirror. The resemblance was uncanny. The same eyes, the same subtle expressions, the same small gestures he remembered from himself as a child. He knelt slowly, trying not to scare them. "Hi," he said softly. I'm your father." The child's eyes widened further, a mixture of confusion and curiosity. They didn't speak at first, just studied him carefully. He felt an ache in his chest, a mixture of joy and sorrow. Here was someone who carried a piece of him, someone who had grown without him. "It's okay," she said quietly from the doorway. "Take your time. Don't force it." He reached out a trembling hand. The child hesitated for a moment, then slowly, tentatively reached back. It was a small touch, a single hand meeting another, but it felt monumental. Tears welled up in his eyes. Not of sadness, not entirely, but of the overwhelming realization of what he had lost and what he had the chance to gain now. You're amazing," he said softly, his voice thick with emotion. I can't believe you're real. That I have a chance to be here now." The child's small hand squeezed his gently, and in that simple gesture, something shifted inside him. A weight he hadn't even realized he was carrying started to lift. A sense of purpose, a sense of responsibility, a sense of real connection he had never known before began to bloom. She watched silently, allowing the moment to unfold naturally. She had feared this day, yes, feared the potential pain and confusion. But she also knew it was inevitable. They needed to meet. They needed to see what had been missing. As the hours passed, he talked softly, laughed quietly, and listened carefully. He learned the little things about the child's life, the routines, the habits, the things that made them smile or frown. He realized that love was not just about grand gestures or gifts. It was about presence, patience, and attention. He felt a profound shift inside himself. Money and power had never given him this feeling. Not a single deal, not a single success, not a single luxurious possession could replace the simple, pure connection of being there, present, and known by someone who needed him. As evening fell, he and the child sat by the window looking at the ocean. The waves shimmered under the soft glow of the sunset. He held the child close, feeling a warmth he hadn't felt in years. He realized in that moment that wealth was meaningless compared to this. Real value, real meaning, came from love, responsibility, connection. She stood nearby, watching quietly, a small smile on her lips. She had protected her child, yes, but she also knew now that he could be trusted, that he could belong in their life if he chose to stay. He looked up at her and nodded, a silent promise passing between them. He would not waste this second chance. He would not leave again. The night deepened, the hotel quiet around them. But inside that small room, a new chapter began. One built not on money, not on status, not on ambition alone, but on presence, love, and the fragile, beautiful chance to make amends for years lost. He understood. Finally, that life had given him a gift he could never buy. A connection he could never earn, except through care, attention, and patience. And he was ready. Ready to face the past, embrace the present, and, slowly, step into the future that had once seemed impossible, because some moments in life, no matter how unexpected, could change everything. And this, meeting his child, seeing her strength, and feeling the weight of what had been lost, was one of those moments. He woke the next morning feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. The events of the previous day replayed in his mind like a movie he couldn't pause. Seeing his child, feeling the small touch of their hand, and hearing her voice speak truth to him had changed something deep inside. He had spent years chasing money, power, and influence, but none of it had ever given him the weightless feeling of belonging he had experienced yesterday. The hotel room was quiet, except for the soft sound of the ocean outside. He dressed slowly, his movements careful, almost ritualistic, as if the act of preparing himself for the day was a way to steady his mind. Today, he would spend more time with them, the woman he had loved and the child he had never known. He had no plan for what would happen, no roadmap, only a desire to be present, to connect, and to make things right. When he stepped into the hallway, he found her waiting. She smiled softly, a calm, gentle expression that carried both caution and hope. He realized that despite the years apart and the hurt, there was still a thread connecting them, delicate but strong enough to guide them through this new chapter. "Good morning," he said quietly, feeling awkward but honest. "Good morning," she replied. "Are you ready?" Nodded. "I am." They walked together to the small living area where the child was playing with a few toys. The moment the child saw him, their eyes lit up with curiosity. He knelt slowly, holding out his hand. The child hesitated, then approached cautiously. "Hi," he said softly. I'm your dad." The words sounded strange, even to him, but the sincerity in his voice carried weight. The child studied him carefully, then slowly reached out, placing a small hand in his. That simple connection, quiet and tentative, filled him with a warmth that no achievement or possession had ever given him. They spent the morning together, slowly building trust through small interactions. He learned about their favorite games, what made them laugh, and what worried them. Every small detail mattered. Every laugh, every smile, every question was a bridge, connecting him to a life he had missed and now had a chance to join. She watched quietly, occasionally offering guidance, but mostly letting the two of them navigate this new relationship on their own terms. Her presence was steady, calm, a gentle reminder that trust had to be earned, it's not demanded. As the day passed, he began to feel something shift inside him. The restlessness, the constant pressure to do more, to achieve more, that had defined his life for years, seemed to fade. In its place was a new understanding that real wealth wasn't measured in money, cars, or mansions. Real wealth was in these moments, in the laughter of a child, in the gentle smiles of someone who had once loved you and still allowed you a place in their life by afternoon. They were sitting near the hotel's small pool area. The child was splashing lightly, laughing as he joined in, careful not to scare them. She sat on a lounge chair nearby, watching with a soft smile. The scene was simple, ordinary even, but to him, it was profound. This was life, messy, unpredictable, filled with moments that could not be bought or controlled. He turned to her, feeling a mix of gratitude and awe. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for letting me be here, for trusting me." She looked at him, her eyes steady. "It wasn't easy," she admitted, "but I wanted you to have a chance. Not for me, but for them. They deserve to know you. And you deserve to know them too." He nodded, feeling tears prick his eyes. He realized that the years of absence, the mistakes, the selfish choices, they were still there, but they no longer defined him. Now, he had a chance to do something real, something meaningful, something that mattered in ways money never could. The child ran over, laughing, and he caught them gently in his arms. He felt the small weight of their body, the warmth, the trust beginning to grow. He kissed the top of their heads softly, feeling an emotion he had never known so fully, love without conditions, love without expectation. Love that simply existed because it had to. She watched quietly, then spoke softly. "They're going to ask a lot of questions. They might be confused. It's okay. Take it slow. Let them lead." He nodded, understanding completely. He had spent too long dictating his life, controlling outcomes, pushing everything forward without patience. Now, patience was essential. Every small step mattered. Every smile, every gesture, every shared laugh was a building block for a relationship that had never existed before. As evening approached, they sat on the balcony together, looking at the ocean. The sky was painted with deep shades of orange and purple, reflecting the slow fading of the day. The child leaned against him, tired from the day's excitement, and he held them close, feeling the quiet peace that came from being present, being accepted, being part of a life that mattered beyond himself. She stood nearby, quietly handing him a cup of tea. "It's not going to be easy," she said softly. "There will be challenges. There will be moments of frustration, maybe even anger. But if you stay, if you're patient, if you're consistent, this can work. This can be something real. He looked at her, gratitude and determination in his eyes. I'll do whatever it takes, he said. I can't change the past, but I can be here now, and I will be. For a long while, they sat in quiet reflection, watching the waves crash gently against the shore. He felt a calm settle over him, a realization that life was more than wealth, more than ambition, more than titles or possessions. Life was this: the connections we make, the love we give. It's the presence we offer to those who matter most. Later that night, he found himself thinking about the journey that had brought him here. He had spent years chasing things that ultimately left him empty. But now, for the first time in a long time, he felt fulfilled. He had been given a second chance not to reclaim what he lost entirely, but to build something new, something meaningful, something real. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be simple. There would be mistakes, misunderstandings, moments of doubt, but he also knew that he had learned the most important lesson, that real wealth was not counted in money, but in love, trust, and the quiet. Powerful moments that create connection and belonging. The child stirred in their sleep, and he watched them carefully, feeling a fierce protective love. He realized that this bond, fragile yet growing, was the most important thing he had ever experienced. And for the first time, he felt ready to embrace it fully. She joined him on the balcony, sitting quietly by his side. They didn't need many words. The silence was comfortable, filled with understanding, respect, and a shared hope for the future. You've changed, she said softly. Breaking the quiet, he nodded slowly, smiling faintly. I had to, he replied. I didn't realize what I was missing until now. I understand what really matters. She smiled back, a mix of relief and quiet pride in her expression. Then maybe this can work, she said. Maybe we can all find our place together. He looked at the ocean again, the horizon stretching endlessly, full of possibilities. The past was still there, the mistakes still lingered, but they no longer held the same power over him. The future was open, fragile, but full of hope. And in that quiet hotel room, overlooking the waves, with the child sleeping peacefully and the woman who had once held his heart nearby, he finally understood the true meaning of life, love, and responsibility. It wasn't about what he owned. It wasn't about how successful he was. It wasn't about status or wealth. It was about showing up, being present, loving without conditions, and taking the small, steady steps that build real, lasting connections. He knew he had a long way to go, but for the first time, he felt ready. Ready to be a father. Ready to be a man who mattered beyond his wealth. Ready to live a life that had meaning, that had heart, that had love at its center. And as he looked out at the night sky, listening to the quiet waves, he felt a peace he hadn't known in years. A peace that came from knowing he had been given a second chance and that he would not waste it. Because some lessons in life are learned too late, but some gifts are worth waiting for. And he had finally received the gift that mattered most. He woke up to the soft sound of waves rolling against the shore, sound that now felt familiar, comforting, almost like a heartbeat he had been missing. The hotel room was quiet, the early sunlight spilling gently across the floor. He sat up slowly, taking in the calm around him. For the first time in years, he didn't feel rushed. No emails, no meetings, no pressure. Just quiet, just presence. Yesterday had been overwhelming, a flood of emotion and revelation. Meeting his child, holding them for the first time, feeling the weight of both absence and newfound connection, it had shaken him in ways he could not have imagined. And yet, despite the confusion and guilt, there was hope. A fragile, glowing hope that life could be different. That relationships could be rebuilt, that love could exist again, in forms he had long forgotten. He dressed carefully, wanting to be ready for whatever the day might bring. She had said that today they would spend more time together, slowly getting to know each other again. He felt anticipation, nervousness, and a strange thrill all at once. After years of chasing money and success, he had forgotten how unpredictable and alive real human moments could feel. When he stepped into the hallway, she was waiting, holding a small backpack that belonged to the child. She smiled softly. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," he replied, trying to sound calm, though his heart raced. They walked together to the child's room. The child had been up for a while, quietly playing with a few toys scattered across the floor. Their eyes lit up when they saw him, a mixture of curiosity, recognition, and cautious excitement. He knelt down carefully, trying not to overwhelm them, and held out his hand. "Hi," he said softly. I'm your dad. Can I sit with you?" The child studied him for a moment, then slowly nodded, stepping closer. He felt the small hand slip into his, and for the first time, the weight of years apart seemed to dissolve, replaced by a fragile, hopeful connection. They spent the morning playing together. He learned about their favorite games, what made them laugh, and even small routines they had developed. She watched quietly, occasionally offering guidance, but mostly letting them navigate this new relationship on their own terms. Her presence was steady, calm, and supportive, a gentle anchor in a sea of unfamiliarity. With each passing hour, he felt a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. Wealth, status, and success had never given him this feeling, this simple, profound joy of connection, of being needed, of being present. He realized that the years of absence had cost him more than he could measure. But now he had the chance to be here, to be a part of a life he had once abandoned. By late morning, they decided to take a walk along the beach. The child ran ahead, laughing as he followed, careful not to let them get too far. She walked beside him, quietly, as if observing the new dynamic between father and child. The sun was warm, the waves gentle. The world felt alive in a way it hadn't for him in a long time. "Do you remember building sandcastles when you were little?" she asked him softly, a small smile on her lips. He nodded, smiling at the memory. "I do. I loved it, even if I wasn't very good at it." She laughed quietly. "Your child seems to have inherited that same enthusiasm." He glanced at the child, who was carefully shaping a mound of sand, concentrating with all the seriousness of someone who had a purpose. He felt a quiet pride swell in his chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with money or accomplishment. This was life. Simple, messy, beautiful life. They built sandcastles together, laughing when waves knocked them down, creating new ones when old ones crumbled. The child's laughter was infectious, filling him with an energy he hadn't known he had lost. He realized that this, the presence, the connection, the shared joy, was what he had been missing all along. After a while, they sat down on a small blanket, tired from play but content. She joined them, sitting quietly, watching the waves. He handed the child a small snack, and they ate together in silence, comfortable and peaceful. He felt a deep sense of belonging, something he had chased through wealth and ambition but had never truly found until now. "You've changed," she said softly. Breaking the silence, he looked at her, curious. "Changed how?" "You're calmer," she said. "You're present. You're not running from something or trying to prove something. You're just here, and it matters." He nodded slowly, feeling the truth of her words. "I didn't realize what I was missing until I saw them, until I held them. I've spent so long chasing things that didn't matter. Now I see. This is what matters." She smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and quiet pride. "It's not going to be easy," she said. "There will be challenges. There will be moments when you feel frustrated or unsure. But if you stay, if you're consistent, if you're patient, this can work. You can be a part of their life, really be a part, and it will matter more than anything else you've ever done." He felt a surge of determination. "I will," he said firmly. "I can't change the past, but I can be here now. I can be someone they can count on, someone they can trust. I will not leave again." They spent the afternoon exploring the hotel grounds, playing simple games, and talking about small things, favorite colors, favorite foods, silly jokes. Each interaction built a bridge between him and the child, strengthening a connection that had been missing for years. He realized that love, real love, wasn't about grand gestures or gifts, It was about being present, paying attention, and sharing moments that mattered. As the sun began to set, they returned to the balcony, watching the sky change colors over the ocean. The child leaned against him, tired but happy, and he held them gently, feeling a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. She joined them, sitting quietly, and they all watched the waves together in companionable silence. He reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The years of absence, the mistakes, the choices that had caused pain, they were still there, but they no longer defined him. Now he had a chance to do something real, something meaningful, something that could last. He understood, finally, that wealth and success were empty without connection. Without love, without moments like this, shared quietly, simply, profoundly. The child's small hand in his, their laughter. The woman who had once held his heart, watching quietly all of it, mattered more than anything else in the world. Night fell, and the hotel grew quiet. He tucked the child into bed, reading a small story until their eyes grew heavy and they drifted off to sleep. He watched them for a moment, feeling a fierce protective love, and then stepped outside to sit on the balcony with her. "You've really changed," she said softly, echoing her earlier words. He nodded, a small smile on his lips. "I had to. I didn't know what I was missing until now. I understand now what really matters." She reached out, placing a hand briefly on his arm. "Then maybe this can work," she said quietly. "Maybe we can all find our place together." He looked at the ocean, the waves calm and endless, and felt a profound sense of hope. The past was still there, yes, but it no longer held the same power over him. The future was uncertain, fragile, but full of possibility. And for the first time in years, he felt ready to embrace it fully, because he had learned the most important lesson, that real life, real meaning, real wealth were not found in money, success, or status. They were found in love, connection, responsibility, and the quiet. Powerful moments that create bonds that last. He knew the road ahead would not be simple. There would be challenges, mistakes, and moments of doubt. But he also knew that he had been given a second chance, a chance to build, something that mattered more than anything he had ever owned or achieved. And as he watched the night sky, listening to the gentle waves, he felt a peace he hadn't known in years. A peace born from love, from presence, and from the knowledge that he had been given a gift he could never buy and would never take for granted, because some lessons come too late to change the past. But some gifts, when they finally arrive, are worth everything. And he had finally received the gift that mattered most. He turned to her, a quiet smile on his face. "I'm ready," he said. "Ready to be part of this, fully. No excuses. No distractions, just..." Here she smiled back, her eyes reflecting the same hope and trust he felt. "Then let's take it one day at a time," she said. "Together," he nodded, watching the waves and feeling a new chapter begin. One not built on wealth or ambition, but on love, presence, and the unshakable bond a family finally found. And in that quiet hotel room, with the ocean stretching endlessly before them, he finally understood the meaning of life. Not in what he owned, not in what he achieved, but in the people who mattered, the moments shared, and the love that could heal even the deepest wounds. He had been given a second chance, and he would make it count.